Why alive? Okay. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Once again, we are back on Years to Come Live with another great topic this week. And as usual, I'm your host for this great talk show. This week, we are privileged to have with us once again Mrs. Hannah Tusule, who is a food nutritionist, to take us through this exciting topic, which is food allergies and food intolerance. So I hope to come in and then let's educate ourselves on this great topic. Good evening, Auntie Hanatu, and then thank you very much once again for joining us again.
Hello, good evening, and it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Okay, thank you. The topic food allergies and food intolerance.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Is it okay now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay then. Okay. Okay. Viewers out there, sorry about this. We had a little technical issue, so we'll continue from here. We're here to discuss on the topic food allergies and food intolerance. When we talk about food allergies, what are food allergies, please?
Okay. So, food allergies result just like any other allergy, where by eating a certain food, your body um, takes it to be like a foreign object or foreign material, and then sets your immune system into a process to produce, should I say, well, defense chemicals against it. So somehow, there's certain foods when you eat, your body thinks that is a foreign material, so they have to produce antibodies against it.
Yeah.
And then that results in certain reactions. I mean, the various symptoms that we get. I mean, whether it's a rash, swollen face, tongue, etc. So, food allergies are basically allergic reactions that happen as a result of certain foods. And there are, very common culprits. When I say culprits, there's certain foods that are known to kind of cause that kind of reaction in many people, or a lot of people who suffer from allergies generally. The food allergy is specifically
Okay.
regarding food.
Okay. Food allergies and then food intolerance. Are there any difference?
Yes, there's a difference. The difference is that, like I mentioned, with food allergy, it's a reaction by the immune system. So the immune system kind of kicks in a reaction, and that's quite serious. So that's more serious than a food intolerance. Sometimes the symptoms may look similar, but that's also a reaction, but not by the immune system. But usually, it's by the digestive system. Food intolerance occurs,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
usually associated with, the digestion of, certain foods, and it's quite individual. So some people just, for some reason, either they're not producing the right enzymes for a particular food. For example, very common one is lactose intolerance. So for some people, when they drink fresh milk, for example, then they have a reaction, but that in itself is not an allergy; it's just an intolerance. It's just because they don't have the
Okay.
enzyme to break it down. So that is not an allergic reaction. So allergic reactions could be more serious, and in extreme cases could result in death. But with intolerance, it's not as serious, and it doesn't. And with food allergies, some of the reactions could happen immediately, quite immediately, and sometimes, in extreme cases where you can have anaphylaxis if adrenaline is not introduced, where you know an injection is not administered very quickly, we could lose the person. But with food intolerance, most of the time it takes one consuming quite large amounts before you see any sign of that kind of reaction. So that's the difference. One
Okay.
is definitely immune system, and the other is the digestive system.
Okay. So I know you've said a little about the causes of it. What are some of the causes and the symptoms of this allergies and then food intolerance?
Okay, so with allergies, causes, well, we it's very difficult to find out, why. It's just when somehow some people
Yeah.
just react to certain foods, and the immune system somehow just sees that, sees those food items as foreign material, and then produce, and then develop that reaction. And with food into and I
Yeah.
must say that food allergies, or allergies in general, and then of course I'll narrow it down to food allergies. A lot of it is quite hereditary, so it's passed on. So maybe your parents,
Yeah.
or you can find that in some families they just generally don't eat certain things, or when they eat something they react. So for example, very common
Yeah.
conditions like asthma and eczema, they're actually allergy related conditions.
Uh-huh.
And so you would find, and they manifest themselves in
Oh,
very
okay.
different ways. And and the food, the foods that we eat actually could trigger them, make it either, make them present mildly or actually severely. So somehow, so you have it running through the family. So in a family, you find, they have asthmatics. You would have people who may have extreme, very serious, severe eczema, or you would have some people who, passed on. So whether it's the children or grandchildren, or in the family,
Yeah.
siblings, they would be allergic to maybe cereals or something, or shellfish or something like that. And you see that when they eat, or milk, when they eat these foods, then they will either have an asthmatic attack, or the eczema will flare up, etc. So those are some of the things, and some of the symptoms with food allergies. Like you have rashes, very huge rashes. We call them hives. They're quite, you see them, they're quite huge. Then you have also itching sensation in the mouth, and sometimes also you could have
Yeah.
swelling of the tongue in the mouth, and in extreme cases, like I said, in extreme cases, you could have anaphylaxis where, adrenaline has to be administered quite quickly. Otherwise, it could be very fatal, could result in death. And then you could also have
Yeah.
some symptoms like diarrhea and vomiting as well. But like I said, with food allergies, the reaction happens quite quickly. So it's like if, for example, if somebody is allergic to eggs, if they eat something without knowing that there are eggs in there, as soon as they eat it and it gets into the
Yeah.
system, straight right away they have that reaction. So within minutes or seconds, sometimes even within seconds, you have that kind of reaction. Their reaction happening, whether it's the rash, or whether the swelling, the itchy sensation, or any other way it manifests itself. And with food intolerance, they like I said earlier on, when I was citing the differences, mainly digestive. So it could be that, for some people, maybe as a result of a certain condition, their system is a bit, their digestive system is a bit, um, should I say, is a bit altered, or a bit disturbed. So they're not producing certain enzymes, and therefore you become intolerant to some type of food. Whether it's lactose intolerance, or whether it's coffee, caffeine, and sometimes even for some people, depending on the method of preparation of the food, they might just be intolerant to it. So there are some
Yeah.
people who show food intolerance when they eat certain fresh fruits and vegetables, but when it's cooked, then they are okay. They don't have that kind of reaction. So and it's all got to do with the digestion. And I must say that the symptoms, the signs and symptoms of food intolerance are, most of them are similar to those of allergic reactions. The only difference is that that can take a long time before they actually manifest. So if it's the vomiting, or the diarrhea, or the bloating of the stomach, or the rash or something, that will not happen immediately when you eat that food. It could be, a few hours later, you know after, after some time, or it could also be depending on the amount. So with food intolerance, it depends also on the amount. A lot of the times, the body can tolerate or can contain small amounts, but when it goes beyond a certain threshold, and that could be different for different people, then you begin to see the symptoms, or the signs that the body is not really tolerating it, and they're showing it. Yeah. So so the symptoms are mostly
Okay.
similar, but the difference again is the timing. The timing with which the symptoms show. One is very quick, and can be immediate, and the other could be delayed, could be later.
Oh, okay. So with this, at what age can someone get these food allergies? Is it during birth? Can someone have it during childbirth, or at any time? At what age? does it
Okay.
start actually?
Okay. So allergies, food allergies could manifest at any time. But for most people, for most adults, you've realized that they have a history of that of whatever food allergy they experience right from childhood. And like I said, mentioned, hinted earlier on, a lot of it could be, passed on. So you could be born with it, but unless you eat those foods that actually trigger those reactions, you may not know. But for most, um, a lot of children, I must say, a lot of children actually experience food allergies, but they tend to grow out of it. So, up to about age, so from birth to about age 3 to 5, a lot of children, if they're allergic to certain foods, will normally grow out of it, but some don't, and then they, carry it on into adulthood, and sometimes later on, some people may be allergic to something when they're younger. By the time they grow older, then it changes to another food item. So children suffer food allergies, adults suffer food allergies. But like I said, with children, a lot more children may are likely to grow out of it as they get older.
Okay. So how do we know that someone has these allergies? Do they go for a test, or is it when they experience the symptoms that they know that they have this allergy?
Hello, hello, hello. Oh, this thing seems to be going off.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I think we are back now. It keeps
Okay.
going off. So
Yes. Yes. Oh,
can you hear me now?
yes. I can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, it's frozen again.
We are on.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah. No, it's fine now.
Okay. Okay. Hello. 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 Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me too?
It keeps breaking, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
The next went. So I don't know.
Yeah. There must be a problem with
It's
the
okay
connection
now,
today.
please.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So we are on testings, and then
Testing.
treatments.
Okay.
Yeah. How do we test for it, and then what treatment do they have for these allergies? Please.
Okay. So with allergies, first of all, if anyone has or think they have an allergy from what we've said, or if you've read around, first thing is to contact your GP. And there are a number of tests that are conducted in the hospital. First one is called the skin prick test. It's usually done in an allergy clinic where, um, you know, a sample of the food item that you're allergic to, that you've shown some reaction to, is actually introduced into the body. So on the skin somewhere, they would, make a small incision. It's not usually painful, and then introduce that amount. The idea is to get it into your immune system to see if that reaction would occur again, and then they will measure to confirm that this particular food item is causing allergic reactions. So that's what we call the skin prick test. Then the other test is a blood test, which um, is actually conducted to find out if there are allergic antibodies in the blood, in the system, and then that's the way to confirm and find out exactly what the allergic reaction is. And so this could be for multiple types of foods, not just for one, but could be for as
Okay.
many as one could be reacting to. And then we have what we also call the food elimination um, kind of test, or food elimination in the diet. This test also goes for intolerance as well. So that's where that doesn't involve a blood test, so it's not kind of non-invasive, and it doesn't involve any pricking on the skin, but it's just a simple thing where for a period of time, usually between 2 to 6 weeks, the doctor would ask you to eliminate that food that you think you're allergic to out of your food for a while, so either between 2 to 6 weeks, and see if you have that reaction,
Okay.
and then reintroduce it, and then see what kind of reaction it is, and then so that for allergy. And then for food intolerance, like I said, that's also commonly used for um, testing for food intolerance. And then with the food intolerance, they can go on and look at how much one can tolerate, and then etc etc. And so these are the main tests that are available, that are usually conducted to find out, to confirm what food allergies, and then of course with intolerance as well. And these are available on the NHS. So once you're referred, you see your GP and you are referred to an appropriate allergy clinic, then you'll be taken from there, and then you would have these tests conducted. Did you asked something
Okay.
about treatment? Did you want me to talk about treatment as well?
Okay. Okay. And with this, are there any treatment for them, or do you, is it like a lifetime thing that stays? Yeah.
Right. Okay. So the main thing with allergies, it's about yes, we could call them treatments, but in a way, also managing, the symptoms. So the main common
Yes,
thing will
please.
be
Yeah, treatment. Yeah.
yes. So the main thing will be prescription of what we call antihistamines, and most antihistamines are actually available off the
Yeah.
counter.
What are some of the treatments, please?
Yes. So antihistamines will usually be the ones. Antihistamines are just anti, so against histamines. And histamines are those chemicals that our bodies produce as a way of, defense, when the body thinks that there's something foreign in the body, and then it produces, those antibodies. Those are some of the chemicals are histamines. So anti means those ones that work against them. So antihistamines will usually minimize or
Okay.
suppress the reactions that may be caused by those foods, and what we call the allergic reactions. So antihistamines, they block the effects of the histamines. So they're usually prescribed, of course, before, although some of them are available off the counter. It's always good, advisable to speak to your GP before you go for any. And not all of these are actually suitable for children under the age of 2. So it's very important to check on that. In very extreme cases, particularly for anaphylaxis, then adrenaline is actually used to reverse the reaction. And for some people who may have such severe reactions, they actually prescribed what we call adrenaline in an automatic, what we call an automatic injection device. The common one is what most people may have heard called the EpiPen, that you have to carry with you everywhere you go, because you never know when you're going to have that reaction. Just in case you are not aware that that food you're allergic to, you get exposed to it, wherever you go, then you carry it, and then almost immediately it has to be administered into the system to avert any fatal reaction. So adrenaline is, in extreme cases, extreme allergic reactions, adrenaline is prescribed and carried around, or should make sure it's very accessible as easily as possible so that it can be administered when it's needed.
Yeah.
So those are the two main things. With food intolerance, um, because it's mainly due to digestive issues, a lot of the time for most people, you realize that when they're monitored quite closely in terms of, like I said earlier on, intolerance, right? There's always a threshold of how much you can tolerate and how much you cannot. So for certain foods, you could reintroduce them gradually into your diet, and then the system, your body will be able to adjust and manage it properly. Like I also hinted much earlier on. Sometimes for some people, they may be suffering from a condition or maybe on some kind of medication that is hindering the production of one enzyme or the other. So it could be that while another issue is being sorted out, you could have them now tolerating this food item or not. So there are different circumstances there. But yes, it also is possible to manage in such a way that those reactions go away or are minimized as much as possible. But of course, in some cases, then some people kind of end up not eliminating those food items completely, just to avoid the discomfort of those reactions that they have. For example, if I've come across somebody who after, I mean, in adult life, she just one day just woke up and could not eat raw onions. So if raw onions were found in the food, whether it's a salad or a sandwich or anything, she would have an extreme reaction after she's eaten it. But if the same onions were cooked in, the food, she'll be absolutely fine. So it means for now, for well, perhaps for the foreseeable future and maybe the rest of her life, she has to consciously make sure that she doesn't expose herself to raw onions unless it is cooked. So those are some of the things how to do it. So she's not totally intolerant to onion as it is, but it's just the uncooked one. If it's raw, then some of the chemicals, because onion is quite, and especially not just onion, on the onion family, and celery is one food item in that group as well, and cabbage. And celery is one of the vegetable that a lot of people actually have allergic reactions to. So that's it. So it depends on the circumstance. For some people, the reactions or the symptoms could be managed and minimized as much as possible. And for some people, to it just means that have to eliminate it in their diet completely to avoid the discomfort and on all the reactions. And while we're at it, I just thought maybe it would be a good place to mention some of those food items that the common ones that um, um, cause food allergies, or most people may be allergic to. And before I list them, in the UK, actually, it is part of the food law for every food item that's sold out there to have on its label if they contain one of these items. There are 14 of them, very common food items that cause food allergies. And so by law, every food manufacturer, or even a restaurant, any eatery, supposed to let you know on the menu or on
Yeah.
the label that this food may contain um, peanuts or nuts, or it may contain eggs or milk, so that you are aware. Um, before you make an informed decision. So the common ones are, and there are 14 of them in the UK, especially when it comes to food. So we've got milk, we've got eggs,
Yeah.
we've got fish, we've got cereals, and the cereals is mainly because of gluten, and that's gluten is found in wheat, barley, and oats. And then we've got celery, and then we've got shellfish. It's another group. And then we've got the mollusks, so things like the snails and squids and whales, and all those, that group. So in terms of the seafood. And then we've got what we call lupin. So lupin is comes from a certain flower, as in flower plant, but it's also commonly present in flour that we use, for baking, so bread, etc. So you may find lupin in certain pastry products, and that usually is one of the culprits that causes food allergies. And then we've got mustard is another thing, and then we have peanuts, of course, ground, or what we call, some people call, what we call groundnuts. So peanuts, and then but remember, peanut is a pulse, it's a pulse or a legume. Um, and so apart from peanuts, so we classify peanuts on its own, and then other nuts. So other nuts are usually what they'll refer to them as tree nuts. So we've got the cashew nuts, walnuts, almonds, all the other nuts could cause allergic reactions. And then we have sesame seeds, and then soya. So soya in whatever form, whether it's the soya from the edadame beans, or whether it's the soya in the soy sauce or etc. But as long as there's soya somewhere, it needs to be indicated that it's present, because people react to it. And then the last one is
Yeah.
the 14th one is a sulfites, what we call sulfites or sulfur dioxide. Now this is a common preservative that's used especially in processed meat, and also for preserving fruits and vegetables as well, because it extends the shelf life. And it's also for use for flavoring. So sulfites, some people react very, very seriously to it. And so those are the food items that um, usually cause food allergies, the common ones. There may be, so this list is not exhaustive. There may be other people who um, experience allergies with other food items, but these are the common ones that people usually react to, and it's important, and at least in the
Okay.
UK, by law, have to be indicated on in the menu in either a restaurant or an eatery, or in any food products that's
Yeah.
on the shelf in the supermarket. Yes.
Okay. There's a question here from someone. He says, if I'm allergic to peanuts, will I react to all nuts?
Right, that's a very good question. So not necessarily. Some people react to peanuts, but they not necessarily react to other nuts. But for a lot of people who react to peanuts also find out that they react to other nuts, other tree nuts as well. So it depends. The most important thing, or the crucial thing I would say here, is to get tested to find out exactly which ones you are allergic to, or if you've tried it and you've had a reaction, then there could be something. So it's best to get tested to confirm. I must say though that for a lot of people who begin by reacting to or having a allergic reaction to peanuts, most of the time lose the confidence, in trying or eating other tree nuts. So sometimes for a lot of people, they may not actually know, but they just assume that because they are allergic to peanuts, then they may be allergic to the other tree nuts, but may not necessarily be so. And so somebody could be allergic to milk, but may not be allergic to eggs. So it depends. So each food item actually has to be confirmed as one that you are allergic to. So you can't just assume.
Okay. And you know this eggs and milk and nuts are some of the basic requirements in our food, like in our nutrients. So with these people
Yes.
being allergic to those food, is there a replacement of any other nutrition for
Okay. Yeah, so that's a very good question as well. So um in terms of so milk, especially with milk, and when we talk about milk, most of the time it's we're referring to the dairy milk, so the milk from the cow or from animals. So for those people who are allergic to milk, dairy products, then the alternative will be the plant-based milk. So if you're allergic to maybe fresh milk, for example, and or you can't eat cheese or cream or any of those products or even butter because there's milk, butter is made from milk, then the alternative will be the plant-based one, so either rice milk or almond milk or soy milk if you are not allergic to soy. So those could be the alternatives. In terms of eggs, yes, if you're allergic to eggs, eggs are an excellent source of protein. Indeed, eggs contain all the essential amino acids that we need. But if you're allergic to it, then there are other sources of protein. So other meats, fish, of course, if you're not allergic to it. So there's fish, and then the other meats, which are good sources of protein. So there's always an alternative with that. In terms of peanuts, peanut is a very good source of protein as well and fiber, but of course, then one has to look at the other alternatives. So, having multiple food allergies could be quite limiting because then they kind of restrict what you can or can't have in your diet. But then it means that all the other alternatives that you're having, you just find a variety of ways to cook them or present them so that you can still enjoy them. Yeah.
okay. So with this, is there any those who are not born with it, and then during, like, when they are growing they get this kind of signs, what would
Yes.
they do to stop it? Is there a time that these allergies can just go, or it stays with them forever?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier on, for some people, maybe because of they're just reacting, having that kind of reaction for a period, and then after a while, when they try eating those foods again, they don't react to it, so that's gone. Um, indeed, some people would end up living with it for life. Like I mentioned earlier, in terms of the treatment or management of it, if antihistamines don't help and you're still having the reaction, then the best thing is to eliminate it from your diet. So for some people, unfortunately, if they're allergic to something, then that's it. I've come across people who are allergic to fish oils, for example. So I know I actually have a family member who is allergic to fish oil. So even if the fish oil appear in anything, even in medication, then they would have this person actually would have an asthmatic attack. So yeah, so she's very very particular
Yeah.
about what she has, even if it's some of these supplements actually sometimes have fish oils used in them. So very very strictly, that's how serious this person reacts to fish oil. So for the rest of her life,
Yeah.
she always has to be careful with that. And for some people too, after a while, it just disappears. And like I said, for children, for a lot of children, they grow out of it. And for adults, if you discover, one allergy, in adult life, it could go away or it could stay. So it depends really for everyone. It depends.
Okay. There's one question here. He says, if I have hay fever, will the medication affect my natural ability to fight the pollen?
Um, No, so we're talking about pollen allergy here, which is not exactly food allergy, but I can address it. So pollen,
Allergy.
that's what causes what we call hay fever. So the antihistamines are supposed to block the histamines that your body produces when the histamines happen. And these antihistamines, the doses in which they are prescribed, do not actually affect your immune system to, kind of minimize the
Right.
strength of your immune system. No, they don't. They normally don't do that. I mean, the doses are not enough to cause, any damage to the immune system. So, antihistamines for hay fever don't necessarily fight your body's ability to deal with it. Rather, it helps your body to deal with it because your body is thinks that your body thinks is a foreign material, so it's producing antibodies against the histamine, but the antihistamines are actually helping to minimize that kind of reaction. So yeah, it's actually helping, but not
Oh, okay.
killing it. Yes.
Okay. That's the last question here. It says, if I react to a WAP stings, will each subsequent sting cause a worsening reaction?
Um. Well, in terms of reaction to, again, this is not really food, but yes, I mean, somebody having an allergic reaction as a result of um, an insect sting, like a bee sting. So you're saying that if they experience
Yeah.
it this time, does it mean next time they will experience it worse or less? Is that the question?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it could pretty much be the same. It could be this kind of the same. The experience could be the same. So your body doesn't necessarily form a defense against it. So it could be the same, it could be worse, or it could be less. But usually it's about the same reaction you have.
Oh, okay. And somewhere I know you've answered this question. The person said, if both parents have allergies, will the children also get the allergies from them? Is it like hereditary from the parent?
Yes, more often than not. Yes, most of the time, um, food allergies and general allergies, even medication allergies, usually they're hereditary, they're passed on. Um, so a lot of them are passed on, except those ones that,
Oh, okay.
as a
Um.
result of maybe a reaction to a particular chemical. For example, with alcohol and caffeine are chemicals that people end up having allergic reactions to as well. So maybe when you were younger, because you were not exposed to alcohol or caffeine, you didn't even know that you react to it until in your adult age. Then being exposed to it, you realize that you're having a reaction. So of course, it's either you eliminate it or, and of course, in the case of alcohol and caffeine, um, the solution really is to eliminate them from the food, and antihistamines may not necessarily help in that. They don't necessarily work. The best thing is to eliminate them.
No. Okay. Thank you so much. To wrap up, our time is almost up. Is there any advice, maybe a short advice to give to our viewers out there on what to do when they get this allergy reaction and how to prevent it as well?
Okay. Yes. So allergic reactions, if you're having any of those symptoms, and I'll just go over them quickly. The very common symptoms or reactions for food allergies will be rashes, very huge rashes, what we call hives, itching in the mouth, swelling of the tongue, um, diarrhea, stomach cramps, and vomiting, etc. These, some of these reactions, immediately speak to your GP, and then it'll be taken from there, so you can have a proper test to confirm, what the extent of the allergy, and then it'll be taken from there. Sometimes it could be a mixture. Sometimes it could be one. It could be some people have multiple allergies. So best thing is to speak to a health professional, speak to a nutritionist, a dietitian, of course, speak to your GP, and then you take it further. So or speak to your doctor
Okay.
wherever you find yourself in the world. Not just so this is not just limited to the people in the UK. So speak to a doctor or a
Yeah.
dietitian or a nutritionist, yes, and then have the appropriate tests done, and then you get the appropriate help and advice.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Auntie Hanati, for educating us on this great topic. And viewers out there, thank you also for joining us. Unfortunately, time will not permit us. And sorry for the technical hitches. We hope to rectify this next time. But I know you've learned a lot because I have. So on this note, we say a very big thank you to everyone watching us and to our guests for making time to come out to educate us. And then next week, same time, we bring you yet another great topic on Yes to Healthy Life. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Thank you.